Hello, everybody, and welcome to Theology 101. Today we are going to look at the book of First John. The book of First John is the 23rd book of the New Testament. The New Testament has 5 sections: the Gospels, the Acts of the Apostles, the Pauline epistles, the general epistles, and the book of Revelation. The Gospels contain the life, ministry, teachings, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. The Acts of the Apostles give a historical account of the growth and spread of the Christian church. The Pauline epistles are a collection of letters written by Paul to different churches during his time. And the general epistles are letters written by other leaders, such as Peter, John, and Jude, to different churches. Finally, the book of Revelation gives a picture of how the story of the world will end with Jesus returning to earth to restore and reign on this earth. The book of First John is part of the general epistle section of the New Testament. The Apostle John is the author of this letter, which was written after the Gospel of John and dates this letter around AD 90. He wrote it before he got exiled on Patmos, which meant that he probably wrote this from Ephesus while he was helping pastor the churches around there. And what was happening was that a group of false teachers were questioning whether Jesus was human. They were saying that Jesus only appeared to be a man. This is why John says the purpose of this letter in 1 John chapter 5, verse 13. I write these things to you who believe in the name of the Son of God, that you may know that you have eternal life. John then adds that he specifically wants to make sure that they are not influenced by these false teachers who are making them question Jesus' identity in 1 John chapter 2, verse 26. I write these things to you about those who are trying to deceive you. Like a loving grandfather almost in his 90s, John wants the church to sit down and listen to him. He wants to reassure them that he knows Jesus better than any other person and that Jesus is truly both God and man. Look at the opening verse of this letter. That which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we looked upon and have touched with our hands concerning the word of life. All the verbs are in the perfect tense, meaning that it happened in the past with present implications. So when he says that we, the apostles, have heard, it literally means that whatever they heard from Jesus still rings in their ears now. John can still hear the voice of Jesus today, even though it's been years since he heard it. Then John says this, which we have seen with our eyes. Again, it's the perfect tense, meaning that although it happened in the past, he can still see it right now. He can close his eyes and remember how Jesus looked. He knows how tall he was. He saw his eyes. He saw his hands when he healed the sick. When John closes his eyes, he can see his best friend and cousin, even though it's been many years since he has last seen him. Then John says that he has touched Jesus with his hands. This phrase is important because the false teachers were claiming that Jesus was not really a man. But we see that after Jesus resurrected, he resurrected with a physical body. Look at Luke chapter 24, verse 39. See my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Touch me and see, for a spirit does not have flesh and bones as you see that I have. So we see that John gives a clear declaration that he knew Jesus, he heard Jesus, he saw Jesus, he felt Jesus, and Jesus was truly a man. But he also adds that Jesus was also God. He starts by saying that Jesus was there in the beginning. This points to his divinity. John also wrote this in the opening verse of his gospel. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Then in verse 2, John says that this life was made manifest. The word manifest means to reveal. Jesus existed from the beginning as God, and through his life, ministry, death, and resurrection, he made himself known. Considering everything John experienced, do you trust his account about Jesus or the false teacher's account about Jesus? But there's a practical reason why John writes this letter. He wants the reader to know if they truly are a follower of Jesus. John is going to give different tests of faith because it is so easy to look like you believe and follow Jesus when you don't. The first test is theological. Repeatedly, John wants his readers to examine if they truly believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Look at the following verses. And this is his commandment, that we believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and love one another, just as he has commanded us. Then look at 1 John chapter 5, verse 5. Who is it that overcomes the world except the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God? Finally, look at 1 John chapter 5, verse 10. Whoever believes in the Son of God has the testimony in himself. Whoever does not believe God has made him a liar, because he has not believed in the testimony that God has borne concerning his Son. John is clear. A Christian who does not believe that Jesus is both fully God and fully man does not know God. The second test John will give is a moral test. John wants to move from our heads to our hands. It's one thing to know that God is light, love, righteous, pure, and holy, but it's another to live a life consistent with God's character. Now, obedience is not a means for salvation, but the fruit of salvation. We are not saved by good works, but we are saved for good works. You see, John is going to teach us that sin is incompatible with God's nature as light, which is why Jesus had to come to take away sin. And those who are born of God are given new desires that no longer love sin, but loves God. So any person who claims to know God without a life that reflects moral purity does not truly know God, according to John. The final test John will give is a social test. In other words, John wants to see if we truly love other people. He writes this in 1 John chapter 4 that a loveless person does not know him. If anyone says, I love God and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he does not love his brother whom he has seen, cannot love God whom he has not seen. Then he also adds this about the social test in 1 John chapter 3 verse 14. We know that we have passed out of death into life because we love the brothers. Whoever does not love abides in death. Think about how much John has changed. He would have been called anything but a loving man, but here he is pleading that we love one another. So for a person to fail these three tests, it would raise red flags about their status as a child of God. A person can claim to be a Christian, to know God, but John insists that our verbal profession is invalidated if we fail the theological, moral, or social tests. Thank you to today's sponsor, On Reverence. They offer a free Bible reading app called Awesome Bible. If you want to find out more, I'll leave some links below in the description box. If you missed the last video about the books of 1st and 2nd Peter, I'll leave a link here for you to watch. And until next time, see you.